Per the guidelines of the City of East Hampton, I'd please respectfully ask that you please put masks on. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Ms. Noble, the Dean of Students, and it's my distinct pleasure to begin today's convocation. As I may say, from my vantage point and that of the faculty, it is heartwarming to look out and see such a vibrant, well-dressed, and enthusiastic student body. Kudos to all of you. At this annual occasion, I remind us that we have convocation each fall to mark the official start of school. It is a time for us to come together and officially celebrate a new beginning. As we launch our 181st year as a school this evening, we participate in many of the traditions and annual rites of passage that comprise the long and notable history of the school. Most of you know that the Williston Northampton School takes its name from two schools that merged in 1971. For boys, Williston Academy, and up the road, Northampton School for Girls. The Angelus was presented to Northampton School by the Student Council in 1952. Some say it became the heart of the Northampton School for Girls campus. The Angelus is a bell which on it is inscribed for quiet thought. It was sounded every afternoon, at which time the students and the teachers paused for a minute of silent reflection. Maria Bergie Dwight LaVesconte, class of 1952, said at its dedication that the ring of the Angelus was a call to remind us of the necessity of thought. There is much to think about in the brief minute of your own. Now permanently installed on the residential quadrangle, it has become a tradition to sound the Angelus at convocation and commencement. As we sound the Angelus, I invite you to join me in a few moments of quiet thought. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And as Ms. Noble said, welcome to Williston Northampton School's Convocation. This ceremony, as you heard, marks the official opening of our 181st year. I hope you all had a great morning meeting your teachers and getting more comfortable with the physical spaces on our campus. As I think about and reflect on last year, the faculty that you see behind me on both sides and some interspersed with you were truly heroic in delivering an education from the beginning of the school year until May, uninterrupted, dealing with all that we had to contend with. So let's shout out those faculty, please. I also want to give a special welcome again to our 150 or so newest members of the student body, and you hail from Singapore to San Francisco and Maine to Hawaii. We are so delighted to welcome you to Williston. And to our newest faculty members, again, a special welcome with pointing out two new deans in particular. Nikki Chambers, who as you saw this morning or heard this morning is the new dean for DEIB, and Corey Fogg, our dean of faculty. I mentioned this once already, but when you see folks from the physical plant or from Sage Dining, please stop and thank them for the work that they do, not just today, but each and every day, keeping us so well cared for all year long on this beautiful campus. So thank you, Phys Plant and Sage. Anyway, my brief remarks today to everyone, my theme for the school this year is really simple. It's reclaim the joy. Part of that continues right now, being here together and picking up where we left off this morning. We are in a fundamentally different place this year than last year. As a fully vaccinated community, we are as protected a group as can be, and so are in a particularly strong position to return to normal operations. I am hopeful that the classroom day masking will not be with us for too long, and all that depends on our local health guidelines, as we said earlier. From my vantage point, reclaiming the joy began with the wildest cats standing on the front gate wall as families arrived on campus a few days ago, something we missed last year along with so many other activities and traditions. Sarah Markey and Natalie Stott getting into the sweaty Wildcats costumes, proctors and student leaders going back and forth to dorms with new families, international students serenading our house on Wednesday night with the unofficial fight song of Sammy. All of these moments bring back the very best of Williston. We have had 2 academic calendar years significantly interrupted by the coronavirus pandemic, and it's a pandemic which still grips vast sections of the world and parts of the United States, even causing one local NESCAC college to pause and go remotely for 2 weeks, though they were fully vaccinated. It's been hard not to reflect on these past 18 months, trying to place them in a historical context and thus to make sense of all that we've been through and the challenges that remain. The racial justice reckoning in America, the global pandemic, the recent images from Afghanistan as America's longest war came to an end just before the 20th anniversary of 9/11 tomorrow. These are weighty and historical inflection points, for sure. My hope for each of you is that your Williston education will sharpen your intellectual tools and inspire you to be lifelong learners who will then become engaged and active citizens. As Mr. Talea said this morning, contrary to the popular internet myth, there is joy in learning. If learning were not fun, then the laughter I hear emanating from an English class, or the applause I hear from classmates after a Williston Scholars presentation, or the silent pride I see on your faces when I walk around campus, these would all be fake. But I know they're not. There's joy ringing the victory bell, in painting up as a superfan for Friday night games on Sawyer Field, competing in Olympics, skating on the pond, singing in the choir. I could go on. There's joy on runs with a friend, or even solo walks on the bike path. Embrace these moments and engage them with your hearts as we return to those Williston traditions that bind us across the years. Only those of you who are here as 9th grade students know what it's like to see all the classes parade into graduation under the big tent. But I assure you, 2022, in May, we will all be here for you seniors when over 1,000 people congregate right back here to cheer you on in what I hope will be truly one of the best years of your lives. Make this year about what you can do, not what you cannot do. And let's reclaim the joy, Williston. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Senior Class President Sarah Markey for her welcome remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Faculty and fellow students, especially the glorious class of 2022, welcome. Whether this is your first convocation or fourth like many seniors, or if like me you went through the middle school, or in the special case of Mr. T, if this is your 39th opening ceremony, I am so glad we are all here together at last. As you may know, this marks the 50th anniversary of coeducation at Williston. If this is your first or second year here, you've sadly never experienced a button speech, an annual event that enumerates school history in great detail. But don't worry, I promise we'll all be well-versed by no later than, let's say, 8 p.m. But actually, there is great value in understanding our history. 50 years ago, Williston Academy, an all-boys school, merged with the Northampton School for Girls to form the school we know and love today. In the last few weeks of August, I was looking through our school's archival material. I know, thrilling, best part of summer. I did, however, learn some interesting things. For example, in 1926, the Connecticut River flooded, swamping the Northampton School for Girls. Much of their campus was underwater. It happened again in 1936 and once more in 1938. Kind of makes you wonder why they waited so long to move to this campus. In any case, every time natural disaster struck, the students rallied. They shoveled mud out of their dorms and classrooms and dining hall. They carried on. A few years after the last flood, World War II broke out. With so many men called to fight, local farms lost their workers and crops lay abandoned in the fields. Heroically, Northampton schoolgirls turned out each morning before class to harvest asparagus and potatoes. Now, flash forward to 2020, when Williston, Northampton students once again faced a crisis. And once again, we rallied, distancing, Zooming, swabbing, and masking our way through the pandemic. It wasn't easy, but we made it through the disaster. Okay, enough history. The point is, we are a resilient group. Throughout our history, we've persevered through tough situations. As we head into a new year, I've been trying to find hope in our record of resilience. The truth is, I'm a little nervous. We've missed out on a lot during the past couple of years. There are people here who have never been to Willy Gras, or a night game, or a tandem coffee house, or a holiday party at the Hills. You guys don't know what you're missing. And for those of us who have experienced those things, we do know what we've missed, and it's brutal. We also want this to be an amazing year, and that is what's given me moments of panic. What I'm trying to say is that even though this is the start of my 6th year at Williston, 10, I guess, if you count my time in the Children's Center, back when Sophia Michalski and Will Sawyer and I toddled around on that little playground behind Ford, sometimes, actually, as you'll see this winter, we still put on bulky head-to-toe snowsuits and slide down the dining hall hill, just for old time's sake. Right, Miss Sawyer? But that's another story. Even though I've been around a long time, I still feel the same butterflies as some of you 7th graders and freshmen and other new students are probably feeling today. We all do. It comes from setting really high expectations for the year and at the same time, not being sure of what lies ahead. So, I've been wondering, if we can't control pandemics or floods or how poofy our hair gets in humid weather, in my case, pretty much poofy enough to block the view of any poor person seated behind me at assembly, then what is it we can control? How do we unlock the resilience so deeply rooted in this school? Thankfully, unless Mr. Hill has had some kind of radical epiphany over the summer, we won't be called on to slop mud out of the chapel or roll from bed before dawn to pick cabbages. No one expects us to eradicate COVID, though I certainly won't object if you do. While there's plenty we can't control, there is one thing we absolutely can. Our experience this year at Williston, the community we build, the traditions we embrace, the excitement we bring. We, each and every one of us, have the power to make this year as great as we want it to be. Sounds easy, right? I think it is, though. Juniors and seniors, if you wholeheartedly show up, I guarantee the underclassmen will too. When I was a freshman, my brother Nat was a junior. He opened doors for me, introduced me to friends, kind of showed me a way to be at Williston. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, not all of us have a big brother here. So, upperclassmen, be the big sib. Take Natalie Stott. When she belts her heart out to Sammy, or pretty much any Taylor Swift song ever, but especially Dear John, or dances spontaneously in the dining hall, or spends her Sunday hunting down the golden egg, her enthusiasm is infectious. Plus, she's been known to wear a hot dog costume around campus. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to be exactly like Natalie. For one thing, and Miss Noble, you can correct me on this, but hot dog costumes probably aren't in dress code. But what I mean is put yourself out there. Take some risks. Be yourself. Sing Sammy as loud as you can. Pull up another chair to an already crowded table in the dining hall. Jump into a class discussion. Go to your classmates' concerts and art nights and games. Gather around a fire pit and get competitive at Willimpics. Williston is in our control, and we are the best Williston when we all join together, with students from every class bringing their own talents, ideas, and yes, Natalie, onesies to the party. Remember, upperclassmen, your engagement and attitudes are infectious. We are Williston when senior Pergia Atvan Raja paints another masterpiece at Snack and Easel. And we are an even better Williston when sophomores Sean and Seth O'Donnell are inspired to do the same. We are Williston when Alan Rodall scores a goal at broomball, and we are an even better Williston when Caroline Afuero blocks his shot. We are Williston when Maeve Reynolds and the Glitter Glider set a school record in the cardboard box derby, and we are an even better Williston when Benjamin Barth beats it with a blistering time of his own. Unless, God forbid, the pond suddenly floods. We won't need shovels to prove our resilience. Our toughness, our spirit, is measured by how we engage with each other. So, here are some things we can do today to get the party started. 1. At the end of Convocation, sing the alma mater with all your heart. Just like assembly today, but even more spirit. And if you don't know the lyrics yet, don't worry. They're written in the program, so no excuses. 2, start a conversation with someone you don't really know that well at dinner tonight. And 3, foxtrot, tango, waltz, you name it at the dance later, or just jump up and down like a lunatic. When you need to cool off, grab a couple new classmates and make an ice cream run to Mount Tom's. The perfect year starts now. And guess what? I'm not feeling doubtful anymore. We've got this. Just like all those earlier students who overcame tough times, we will rally. We are resilient. We are Williston. I can't wait to see you all at the dance tonight. And I'm even more excited to see who shows up for class Monday morning looking like a Fenway Frank. Thank you.
Wow, how about Sarah Markey, class president? You know, it's true her brother preceded her here, and I think he was class president too, and I'm frankly getting a little tired of being shown up by Markey kids and getting up to a mic after they give these incredible speeches. But thanks very much, Sarah, for keeping that going. One of the special traditions at Convocation is honoring faculty who have committed 25 years of their lives to Williston, and we present them with a Williston chair. This year we honor 3 valued members of the faculty. Melissa Brousseau began her career at Williston fresh out of Springfield College, having gotten her first taste of the Williston community as an undergraduate doing her practicum in athletic training. Committed to the health and safety of students both on and off the field of competition, Ms. Brousseau currently serves as Associate Athletic Director, though she has worn any number of different hats over the course of her tenure. From teaching human phys to being a dormitory head, she has always placed the highest value on personal connections, presenting a tireless work ethic and the highest standards of sportsman and womanship. Notably, she, along with former faculty colleague Jay Grant, advanced the school's understanding and implementation of concussion protocols to such an extent that other schools come to us to learn best practices. It is a pleasure to present Melissa Brousseau with her 25-year chair. Melissa. Mr. Ed Hing, class of 1977. Returning to teach at his alma mater 25 years ago, Mr. Hing has had an indelible impression on the art department and the countless students he has taught, some of whom have gone on to professions in photography. A multifaceted photographer who came to Williston following a career in photography in New York City, his impact has been vast. Teaching digital and darkroom photography, Williston scholars, visual art, advanced placement, 2D art, Mr. Hing quite literally does it all. Notably, Mr. Hing taps into his professional relationships, bringing visiting photographers to campus for lectures as well as to judge the Williston Film Festival. Any number of alumni who were involved in the arts point to Mr. Hing as the source of their inspiration. And if you were to go online and look at his website, you'll see he's traveled the world and his photos are truly amazing. Please join me in a warm congratulations for Mr. Hing. Kurt Whipple has taught mathematics and been a tremendous asset to the athletic department at Williston for 25 years. His students know him as a dedicated and detailed teacher whose preparation, particularly for the AB Calculus exam, annually prepares them for high attainment and excellence. Athletic Director Mr. Conroy notes that Mr. Whipple has been a mainstay of our lower team boys programs, developing aspiring soccer players and golfers for years. This year, he has moved to be the lead coach of the junior varsity girls soccer team. So as with the advanced placements results, we expect 4s and 5s in all of his games. Whether working in the dormitory or helping students with problem sets or being one of the most avid faculty sports fans at every game imaginable, Mr. Whipple's 25 years of service have impacted countless numbers of students. Please join me in congratulating Mr. Whipple. The following are faculty endowed chairs. Continuing with the honoring of faculty at Convocation, this year we are able to present 2 teachers with endowed chairs, all of which are made possible by generous gifts to the school's endowment in support of teaching excellence, for which these recipients have been selected. These chairs are held for 5 years and come with a generous annual stipend for professional development. It is my pleasure to present 2 of them today. The first, the Henry M. Zaks, class of 1952, and Judith Zaks Faculty Chair, was established in 1999 and is awarded this year to a member of the English department who has been teaching at Williston, who began his teaching career at Williston in 2016 and quickly established himself as an accomplished teacher, humorist, and dedicated colleague. In addition to teaching English, Mr. Leibowitz advises the Willistonian and this year has assumed a leadership role as head of the English department. A former journalist, avid runner, and frequent contributing writer to the Bulletin, Mr. Leibowitz went Williston viral for his version of Alex Hanold's free solo climb to fame as he scaled the walls of the Writing Center. Please join me in congratulating Mr. Leibowitz. The second chair presented today, the David H. class of 1935 and Edward Goodman class of 1937 science chair, was established in 2001 through a bequest by David Goodman. The award this year is presented to Mr. Ken Chu, who began his Williston career in 2005. Mr. Chu has taught a range of courses as well as coached a variety of sports during his tenure at the school, a telltale sign of his willingness to volunteer wherever needed. A biologist by training, he has taught electives in animal behavior, as well as stellar and planetary astronomy, and this year he has taken on the role of advisor to the Asian Student Alliance. His students are universal in pointing to his empathy and listening skills as an advisor, mentor, coach, and teacher. Mr. Chu. So each year I invite an alumnus or alumna or some other honored guest to share remarks with you as we convene this ceremony. This year, knowing that one of the themes we celebrate, as you heard, will be 50 years of coeducation at Williston, I had hoped to find just the right alumna for the occasion. I had met Corey Fogg in my role as head of school in the normal course of events that I attend over the year as I do alumni events literally around the world for alumni outreach. But little did I suspect that she would also become our new Dean of Faculty. Her background educating young women and her passion for developing self-confidence, resilience, and leadership in all students made her, I thought, the perfect choice. I can't recall whether she said yes to this invitation before or after she signed her contract, but in either event, please join me in welcoming Dean of Faculty and proud graduate of the Williston class of 1999, Ms. Corey Fogg.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hill. I want to also extend my gratitude to my esteemed new colleagues, the faculty and the administration of the Williston Northampton School, for inviting me to rejoin this community, and especially for giving me the joyful opportunity to address you this evening. It is my absolute honor to be present here as a proud alumna of the school. Returning to Williston, a place that I hold core to my formation, will allow me to humbly extend my service to a school that gave much to me. I stand here confidently to assure you that you are about to begin a phenomenal year of school, and I am eager to embark on this year's journey with you. It has indeed been a rite of passage to our beginning anew, and you've certainly earned it, haven't you? En masse, we have just traversed a year that has tested our limits around two life-threatening crises, one of racial reckoning in our country and one of a global pandemic. And we have arrived at this moment. 2020 brought us loss, kept us distant from one another, tried our will, and tested the breadth of our understanding of the human condition. And we return today to begin anew. Carrying my own nostalgia for this place and the community, I remember 25 years ago when I was first given a tour of campus. I could even tell you what I was wearing. Head to toe, yellow, with chartreuse sandals. I know this because I had had a debate on the drive here with my father about whether open-toed sandals were allowed, and my advisor would later affectionately nickname me Bananas. Saying 25 years ago put somewhat of a lump in my throat to throw out there. I will say, there's something in the water here, because these adults seem ageless to me. Truthfully, I was not happy to be headed off to boarding school. My father dropped me off on these very steps. Orientation was much shorter then. I may not have even unpacked a bag before I was off to the afternoon activity and dinner. Unafraid to admit it today, I may have pouted through my first week of school. I was homesick. I didn't know anyone well enough. I did not belong.
I felt instantly forced to acclimate to a novel environment, and nothing felt familiar. If you need a visual, I encourage you to stop by my office at some point and lay eyes on the old photo to see the bitter maudlin expression of one angsty adolescent, Corey Fogg. It is a sight indeed. I hopped in the pool that afternoon to splash and swim, according to my father, playing a sport I knew absolutely nothing about, water polo. And I left with a black eye from an errant ball. An excellent start, for sure. It was also that day that I met a friend standing in front of the schoolhouse who would become a woman I now call my sister, whose daughter is my godchild. It was the next day that I met more Williston, Northampton friends I now call immutable family, the people who have celebrated life's peaks and valleys with me at every turn. Later that week, I realized what an unyieldingly compassionate asset I had in my advisor, Pill, who mixed consistent humor, genuine understanding, and tough love in a recipe that brought out the best in each student, in me. Swiftly doubling down on my own learning, I watched educators, some of whom you also have the great fortune to call your teachers today, and some of whom have gone on to well-deserved retirements, bring history to life. Through stories of trial and triumph, they reflected the complexities of humanity through literature and art, challenged me to write with courage and conviction, to cite and revise and rewrite and think and rethink and stand by my ideals, and modeled what it was to have passion for learning and to live with purposeful balance. In that way, this is a true return home for me. And for the record, I was thriving and downright gleeful when my dad returned for Parents' Weekend. While my experience is not yours, I do hope that you share in some of what I felt as a student here in this space, with these people who ardently believe in your potential and who are longing to see you flourish as yourself here. And what a year to join you. Vulnerably, I share that the last 18 months have been wholly challenging for me personally. In my own writing and reflection, I have ruminated this year in liminality. If you're unfamiliar with this term, cultural anthropologists Arnold van Gennep and Victor Turner brought this concept to fruition, focusing on its etymology in Latin, limen, meaning threshold. It is a crossing of boundaries and borders. It is the space between. Scholars of psychology and philosophy, including Carl Jung and Friedrich Nietzsche, have expanded the understanding of this teleological concept to include a time of separation and individuation, a transition, and a distinct return. The complexity of this for me was precisely the Jungian notion that I could not go back to who I was, but I did not yet know who I was becoming. To expand, and I will employ levity here, I went through as many transitions as humanly possible in 2020. At this point, I am essentially a great country song. Having spent several years deciding to become a parent on my own, I had a child in 2020, Marigold. Simultaneously, I learned that my father, who had survived 2 bantam bouts with cancer, now had metastatic carcinoma in his pancreas and his liver. COVID-19 struck, and I instantly went indoors like many of you. I departed my office to take parental leave in February of 2020, and I did not return until the end of the year. There are still colleagues and friends that I did not get to see in person, birthdays we missed, celebrations of life that ubiquitously moved to Zoom, and so much physical contact and connection that was lost. I was in between. A new mother with all the accompanying doubts, joys, and fears, and a daughter welcoming her father to come into the safety of her home and to live. So we did just that, embracing the liminality. My dad moved in and shared in the first year of my daughter's life. His passion for life, even as he battled multiple cancers and the ravages of chemotherapy, was contagious. And it was something he tried to impart intently to me as I became a mother. Growing up, he would shout down the driveway as I drove out, "Make today your best day yet." And he quoted Thomas Carlyle when he pulled away from my dorm that August, reminding me that here hath been dawning another blue day. Think, wilt thou let it slip useless away? With the birth of my daughter, that translated into find the joy. He kept reminding me over this last year to find joy. Seek it out with a wild and open heart. Do not miss these moments of her young life. We did find joy and tried to live out the best of each day that remained. He was ecstatic when I accepted the role at Williston, and he beamed with pride with all that lay before me. We had agreed that he would come with us, and the notion of winding down his life back in New England, in the surrounds of a school that brought so much to us as a family 25 years ago, was of great comfort. His return to Williston, however, was not to be. In the final moments of his life, I was singing to him, reading to him, and praying by his side. I never took my eyes off of him, holding his hand, but for one moment, when I said to him, "Let me play you the video of Marigold giggling once more." In that moment, he left. There in the silence of that room, I heard ever clearer, find the joy. Live fully, for here hath been dawning another blue day. The morning after my father died, I woke with the sunrise. Walking out to the backyard, I watched a wind chime from his mother dance with the air, echoing music across the grass. As I surveyed the scene of a hurried departure from the house, I saw a multitude of seed packets laid out on the lanai table. He had been planning his garden, readying himself and the seeds. My father loved a garden, a passion instilled in him by his own mother, the great grower of iris. His knowledge of flowers was unmatched, and he never missed a chance to share the names of trees and flowers, Latin and common, with me. Stepping out onto the grass in the backyard on that morning, I saw his gardening stool seated in front of multiple marigolds. He'd planted 8 already, and 4 remained yet to be put in the ground. Seamus Heaney's digging came to mind. My father, among the flower beds, bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm where he was digging. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. He believed in tomorrow, even in the space between. That's what planting a seed is in the ground at its simplest, but the work of his life was done. I share this story because it has been a tremendously hard year for me. Perhaps it has been a hard year for you too. I have watched life begin and end under one roof. I left a job, friends, and a community I loved in 2020 and moved into a new home. I inherited 2 lively schnauzers. I began a new job in 2021, and perhaps most importantly, I have arrived at this moment with you. I have crossed boundaries and borders, metaphorically, and I now stand at another Lehman, a threshold. And while there is hardship in this, there is also tremendous promise. Returning to Williston has been just that for me, rife with promise. 1 week ago, while milling about Mr. Hill's lawn celebrating the start of the year with this incredible faculty, I watched this community welcome us as a family. my daughter was instantly nurtured and brought into the fold, and we feel a renewed sense of belonging. Reflecting that evening, I was certain that my dad would be comforted by the compassion of this community and proud of the welcome this Williston, Northampton woman found in her return. As a female identifying alumna, now serving as the Dean of Faculty, I am also welling with pride to reflect and celebrate 50 years of coeducation on this campus. To witness the installation of a new Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Belonging, an aligned and visionary strategic plan, and now to know firsthand the gift that this community has in the presence of Ms. Chambers in her role feels historic in and of itself. What a year for the Williston, Northampton woman. To borrow from a letter that Mr. Hill shared, today's female students, and indeed all of our students, strive to embody the qualities that the founders imagined, and we are proud that the school supports all our young women in academics, the arts, athletics, and student leadership. Following in the footsteps of their Northampton School for Girls predecessors, young women who graduate from Williston Northampton School today go on to great things. Williston Northampton women are scholars, athletes, artists, physicians, engineers, journalists, political activists, volunteers, deans of faculty, and more. Thank you for indulging me in one uncharacteristic moment to be braggadocious. Fittingly, for this celebratory year, the Williston Northampton School's history is inseparable from strong visionary women, Sarah Whitaker and Dorothy Bement, as well as Emily Williston. I shared my story of this year, of the space I have traversed in the middle, to impart what I hope you will glean in this new year and in your time as a member of this community. You are why we are gathered here. You are the promise. And adolescence is, at its base, a liminal space. You will assuredly learn algebra, recite epic poems, master rhetorical analysis and DBQs, make hypotheses, grow in strength and creativity, and come into your own scholarship here. That said, it is my hope that you will take more than these classroom lessons from this space and from these people. Culled from examples at Williston, my learning was never confined to the classroom. Cultivating a life lived with purpose, passion, and integrity in all aspects of the student experience was a calling clearly embodied by the faculty. It was Williston Northampton that galvanized me to think critically about my own learning, to curate a deep understanding of the world, and to foster a burgeoning motivation to serve others through knowledge and action. It was Williston Northampton that gifted me the integrity, presence, and purpose to navigate this past year. It is my sincerest hope that this year brings you similar gifts of heart, reminding you of strengths yet unknown in your chest as you cross your own thresholds and you begin. Thank you.
Wow, I'm pretty sure that Sarah Markey and Ms. Fogg conspired to make this really hard to stand up at the mic tonight. So, Ms. Fogg, thank you for that. I've heard many talks from this podium of a profound and personal nature. That was certainly one of the most moving. So I appreciate your sharing that with this group. On a very lively and joyful and happy note, can I ask Mr. Mann please to come forward to lead us in a joyful rendition of O Williston.